Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Today, we're going to talk about objection handling. Of course, guest speaker for all of our 2020 sales focuses is Mr. Dave Pimper, the president of Lazarus Coaching, who also is the head of his own investment products and insurance products firm. He offers, like many of you, index products. He has a med subs division. He offers managed assets and has a Series 6, 7, and 24. So he's a security supervisor. Beyond that, Dave works regularly with folks on a coaching basis regarding Social Security claiming. He does a webinar or a seminar on Social Security as well. And so he trains both on seminars and on Social Security claiming itself. He is the developer of Retirement Boss Radio. So he works with many of our producers on building their business via radio, which has been very successful as well. So he has a lot of experience. His experience on the sales side itself goes back to 1981. He got into the business and at that time sold insurance products and shortly thereafter began selling investment products as well. He's got 30 plus years of radio experience, has been the speaker for in seminars, a total of 550 seminars in front of consumers directly, and has a long and storied career in working with seminars in general. So a lot of good information there. Dave will be joining us shortly, and what he's going to talk about today is handling objections. Generally speaking, these 2020 sales focus webinars run about 15 to 20 minutes, as you can guess from the title, and are designed really to give you little hot sales buttons that you can use in working with your clients. So we do Roth conversions, we do in-service hardship withdrawals, objection handling, and Dave will soon be developing and introducing 2 or 3 more 2020s as well to help you grow your business. So should be a good webinar that we have for you today. I'm going to put you all on hold for just a moment and we will begin in earnest. Hello, everyone. Again, Steve Murray back. Dave is hopping on shortly and should be joining us as well here in just a second. In the meantime, I just wanted to take you quickly through the Retirement Boss Radio. I chatted you all this website. Dave talks about a number of things on Retirement Boss Radio, including some of the things that we discussed earlier, and he's got some podcasts that would be available for your listening down here at the bottom. So if you have some interest at all, maybe in talking or listening, hearing a little bit more about Retirement Boss Radio, that will be available to you. And Dave is joining us right now. I see him joining. And I sent you over via that the chat message. That website is www.retirementbossradio.com. So I will close that up, and Dave will be joining us, and he'll talk with us about handling objections. Good afternoon, Dave. Dave, you might have us muted on your headset. I'm guessing you're trying to talk.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Good evening. Well, it's either it's afternoon in most places right now.
Yes, I hear you.
Hey, I just walked them really quick through your background, talked a little bit about your business, and then we talked a little bit about Retirement Boss Radio. And I told them that here we go, we're off and running on objection handling.
Real good, and I do apologize. I'm a little bit late today, so just finishing up with a appointment. So I'm in the production business, just like the majority of the people on this phone call are in the production business. And you know, one of the things about making sales is you got to have a sales process, don't you? So what we're going to do is part of this is handling objections, and those are called Vision 2020. They're quick hitters. I mean, this is about a 7-minute, maybe 8 minutes of just sales process coaching, which I do much more in depth, you know, for you know, like sales process for 3 sessions for $600. We go much more in depth and with attachments and role playing and so forth. But let's talk about objection handling. First of all, we want to be consistent. We want to have a track to run on. I'm a very much of a process type of person. It's kind of interesting because Matt Rule, who's the new Nebraska coach, and we'll just see how he will do. We haven't had a bowl game in 5 seasons now, but he talked a lot about having a process when you're coaching. Well, I agree. I've coached for 35 years now and been in production for financial service arena for over 40 years, and I like to have a track. So it's handling objection. When a person throws an objection at you, you should have a track that you're able to run on, and that track is going to go in and hopefully be consistent. Okay, it's not going to change from time to time. No difference than if one of the top golfers, Rory McIlroy, is up there from 100 yards out and he's got a 60 wedge or 58 wedge, and he's going to hit that same type of stroke over and over. He's not going to change. He's not, the conditions are the same. He's not going to bump and run, hit it low, unless there's wind or some different conditions. He's going to do it over and over. That's the way our sales process should be. Steve, can you go to the next? I don't know, for some reason I can't. I'm not being able to go in and move the slide forward. There it is. Thank you. So let's talk about cushioning the objection. And I'm going to say, let's say it's a fixed indexed annuity. Steve, make up something. Tell me what a common objection to a fixed index annuity. You're all done saying, hey, do you have any questions? First says, yeah, you know what? This kind of concerns me, blah, blah, blah. What would that be? Just throw one out there.
What if I need to get my money in 2 years?
Yeah. You know what? So here's what happens is that liquidity, it comes up a lot. Even though you went through the 10% free withdrawal the first year, after the first year, the second year, even though you went up that, if you die, a lot of those contracts will be assumed by a spousal privilege, either at where the surrender charges are or no surrender charges whatsoever. And so there's, you went through, like if you go in, in 60 days or 90 days into the rest home and money's released, or if I mean, I went through all of those different things and those built-in riders. But when a person says, "Yeah, what if I need money in a couple of years?" and I will say, "Well, you know what? That's a good question. Thanks for sharing that with me," or "Thanks a lot for bringing that up. I'm glad you did." And what that does is it makes that person feel good. What's the worst thing you could say? "Well, you stupid idiot! I just told you get 10%, and you got 200,000. You can get 40,000." No, that would be the worst thing you could do because it doesn't make them feel good about yourself. See, the reason a person does business with us, with a salesperson, with an agent, with a broker, with an advisor, with a producer, it's because they like us. And they're not going to like you if you put them in an uncomfortable situation of not feeling good about themselves. So make them feel good. Hey, that's a great point. Thanks for sharing that with me. I don't care what the question is. I say something like that. Now, Steve, you and I are going to role play here. I would say to you, most of the times what happens here is people sell. I will tell you right now, my wife is a primary example. She hates to be sold, but she loves to buy. And I know that fine-edged sword, which is double-edged sharp. I know that that's the case because there's such a thing as QVC in Amazon. and you can't be sold. I mean, if they think you're being sold on the television, you just shut it off. Well, with the face-to-face person, it's harder than that. You've got to leave the room, got to confront them, not on a television. And I will say this too: if you ever watch QVC, whatever those ladies get paid to do that sales job, it isn't enough. They are. I don't even want to watch it because I want to buy. And they buy stuff they don't need. Well, let's get back on this. Cushion the objection. So, Steve, I come to you and I say, I'm going to narrow this down. Hey, I'm curious, Steve, what concerns you most about the liquidity?
Well, I
What,
put money
what,
in accounts before, and I've never had to worry about if I needed if something unexpected arose, something came up that
ah,
you know. So that's my main concern about
yeah,
the what you refer to as liquidity.
yeah, I certainly understand. Yep. No, you're exactly right. It's a good point to bring up. Again, I'm kind of cushioning it through the narrowing down the concern. So now I'm going to isolate it. So basically, that's kind of your biggest concern, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like that's. I mean, I like everything else about what you've told me, but I'm a little bit worried if I need money, can I get to it?
Right. And okay, and I'm just going to make this up now. Let's just say it's 200,000.
Hmm.
The money. Let's say the money's coming. They got 400,000 at the bank. They know it's too much money, and I'm just setting this up, kind of teeing it up, Steve. And so there's 200,000 that is that they're looking at doing something with. And I'll say, give me an idea in a couple of years. How much money would you think you might need? What would you guess?
Oh, I don't really know. I mean, I've had that money sitting in the bank for quite a while and never needed hardly any of it. In fact, it just kind of sat there and growing at a, a relatively low rate. But if something did come up, I don't know. Let's say one of my kids needed something, or my mom needed a car, or, I mean, I'd like to be able to
Yeah,
have some of that money available
you bet.
to help
You
them.
bet. Well, Steve, and you tell me if I'm wrong on this. You had 400,000. You're still going to have 200,000, and you told me, because I have it here in my notes, that you've not touched this money for 7 years. Because when you got that inherited
That's
money from
true.
your dad,
Hmm.
you're not an investor, and I understand that because you don't want to take chances. I mean, I don't blame you a bit. Market's down, S&P's down right now 15%. I know you don't want to take that kind of risk, and the reason this has interest because of the contractual guarantees. But what happens? You still have 200,000 left. So even if you had a car, or the kids needed some money, that's quite a bit. And remember, now, this is real important now from how I'm teaching this objection handling. Remember, now you want to go in and show what the investment does, what the fixed indexed annuity does as far as liquidity. even besides that, Steve, and I kind of went through that, but let's go through it again. I don't
Mhm.
say, "Hey, idiot, didn't understand me the first time." You don't. I mean, no, of course you don't. You say, "Hey, I know I kind of went through this, but let me go a little bit more in depth." Kind of like it's my fault, not
Mhm.
their fault. And
Yep.
then you say, "Hey, so that 200,000 you're putting in, some some of those agreements you cannot get 10% the first year. The one that I'm using, you can, and that's true. I happen to use an Athene product that has the first year, and you know what? Most of the time, no one ever uses it. But Steve, to me, I kind of like using it as a bit of a crutch or a cushion because it's nice to hear you could, even though you don't. It's like I love being self-employed because you know what? Any day I want to, I could call off all my appointments. Do I ever do it? Never. But I love the idea I could.
Sure.
So yeah. So
Yep.
you tell them, so on that 200,000, and I get this because I used to do, it wasn't a debit run because it was new business, but combined insurance, that's Debbie Clement Stone's company. That was an accident policy. I sold an accident policy door to door to door for 3 years, called a safe driver's plan. If you're injured by a car, bus, or truck accident, then you get some monies, or you get an indemnity, some little bit of life insurance, $58 a year. That'd be $32. And in my presentation, I would say for $58 a year, or basically only 16 cents a day, about what a cup of coffee is. Now, 40 some years ago, I guess you could buy a cup of coffee for 15, 16 cents, but that's what my sales presentation said. So I just use the reverse. I say, well, look at Steve, that 200,000. Remember, you've got 10% you can take out any given contractual year, no penalties whatsoever, no surrender charges, no penalties. So what happens is, just know that on 200,000 first year, the you can take out 20 grand, nothing, no kind of surrenders whatsoever. And so, even though the one I use this is a 7 year, it could be a 10 year, but I normally do this over 5 years. I say, so let's just say this, depending on what the growth is on it, but if you take out 10% a year every single year for 5 years, just think about it. You're probably going to take out somewhere between 40 in $50,000, or $40,000 to $45,000. Do you think you'd need more than that, knowing you've got 200,000 in savings? Well, what would you say? No.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
Oh, yeah, you're not. So what happens is, that's isolating it is your biggest concern. Answering it with some kind of story, and that story is about, instead of $58 a day, 16 cents a day, about the $58 a year, 16 cents a day, about a cup of coffee a day. My story is 10%, go over 5 years, 40 to 45,000 you take out of this. Then I add. Oh, excuse me, and I'm wrong on that. My fault. That's what happens. That would be on 100,000. So it'd be, yeah, I'm sorry, 20%, 20,000 times four would be 80. Could you see yourself taking any more out than 80, 85, $90,000? You think you'd need more than that, knowing you've got 200,000 still sitting there? I'm sorry, I did it off of 1 year, and we're doing it
mhm.
because you said in 2 years. Yeah. So, then I did it over 5. Yeah. So what happens is, I'm just making a small number look big, and then of course, then you go into your closing after that. If the person, and then there's specific ways I do my trial close and my close, but I follow a process. Stalls, the most common kind of stalls are, hey, I've got to think about it. Hey, I got to talk to my wife about it. I got to talk to my Pekingese about it. Whatever it is,
Mhm.
those are the most
Mhm.
common kind. I never make a decision without thinking about it. I use the very same thing. And if it's just a stall, you're never going to write the business anyway. But if it's truly that's what they do, and they can tell you what's holding them up, if something's normally holding them up, normally they say, well, you know what? I mean, it's just you know, well, basically, I will go in, and I'm basically saying, so there's something. I mean, it probably isn't just thinking about it, there's probably something here that kind of bugs you a little bit about it, or I mean, so just share that with me. What is it? If they share that with you, then all of a sudden you've got a chance to go in and go through that process and to close them. Because the colder the prospect gets, the lesser chance every day, every week, every month, it gets less and less and less that they will actually do business with you. So handling objections, I mean, there's many parts to the sales process. I mean, it's how you start. It's what you say in the very beginning. It's getting it's a presentation. It's going in and handling objections, closing, using commitment lines. I mean, there's all those different things. I do it over a three session period. So I want to go in and make that connection with my prospect. But it will answer questions. I'm just about ready to wrap it up. But I will say this: if you'd like to get some coaching on the sales process, and I will tell you what, the majority, I certainly coach newbies, but a lot of the people I coach are people, or if you have just one particular area, I do pretty darn good until that close for some reason, or I just don't feel my presentation is strong enough. And I mean, there's all different ways to skin a cat, all different ways. So this isn't the only way. I mean, like, I'm not a big illustration guy. I mean, some guys just love illustrations, but I'm a believer that facts tell and stories sell. Facts tell and stories sell. I'm not against doing an illustration, but I think it can muddy the world, especially if you're talking to a husband and wife who are two engineers. They will get so far in the weeds, you can't ever get them out of there. So if you have something that you want to talk to me about, handling objections, you want coached up on a specific part, you want the sales process. For that sales process, I mean, they're 45-minute sessions. I charge $600 for those 3 sessions, but then you're able to use me for not, for information down the road also. So, Steve, I'll let you. I know there's been a couple questions come in, and then we'll button this thing on up.
We didn't go through our slides, though, did we, Dave?
I know. I just went through. I didn't say to go to the next one. I just kind of got on a roll today. Excuse me. But I did I never even looked at the slides. I did every one of them. So I was late today, but I was pretty good on the slides. Yeah.
Well, you did not memorize your 5 most common objections.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
It's a good point. Yeah. I would write down just like, what, if you're not very good at free throws, you practice free throws. You're not very good at 3-point line, you're practicing 3-point, whatever it happens to be. But you know what? I mean, the 5 objections, if it's fixed index you're doing, I'd handle the 5 most common objections that come on up. If you're doing life insurance, if you're doing UILs, if you're doing med sup, whatever it happened, or med advantage, or whatever you happen to be, write those down and just know when that objection comes up. But I'll tell you what, it's just so simple. Because, I mean, you're going to go in, cushion the objection, narrow it down, isolate it, answer with the story. That's it. Then you go into the close. Boom. I mean, so I do it every single time, no matter what the object. I've never had an objection that I haven't used really kind of in that order. It's just but practice. Practice makes perfect. And that's an important thing to remember. We need to practice also. No matter how good you are, guys like Tiger Woods still has a coach.
You betcha.
And that's very interesting. Yeah.
So, Marion, you asked me what for an objection, but she said the most common objection I hear is I hate annuities. And
okay.
I think we can, blame our friend Fisher for that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, and he's mainly talking about variable annuities with high internal fees. That's mainly what he's talking about. But yeah, well, you know how I would handle that? I mean, it's pretty simple. Hey, you know what? Let's say the name's Frank. Hey, Frank, thanks for bringing that up. I'm glad you shared. You're not the only one. There's a lot of people that have that feeling. Let me ask you this. So I'm curious. What concerns you most about annuities? Why do you feel they're bad? And here we go. We just start peeling down the onion. Yep. So let's say he says, well, I heard they're just really got a lot of high fees. Some do. Interesting thing is the one that I'm showing you has no internal fee.
Mm-hmm.
None. Zero. None. What else don't you like about annuities?
Well, Marion pitched
I
in
heard.
here. She answered it for you. She said, hold on just a second. The insurance company takes all your money.
Well, you know what? And I would say this. I say, hey, I want to tell you what, Frank. It's a good point. Because on the old annuities, if you died, if you had 100,000, you put it into a lifetime annuity, and you die, you don't get anything. Your heirs may not get anything. This isn't that kind. This isn't that type of an annuity.
Sure.
What happens on this one is you've got a guaranteed principal against loss as long as you don't surrender before the first 7 years. I mean, you can take 10% out of your free, but and then the next one might say let's say she's really peeling it down, and she says, I don't need lifetime income. Well, you know what? This isn't. I mean, we could set it up to do it, but this is accumulation. We're competing at CDs, money market, savings accounts, passbook savings, treasury bonds, bills, notes. That's what we're competing against. How about another one? You know what? I had one come on up and I closed the deal. The person said, why wouldn't I just go put this in an I bond at 9 point whatever percent? And I said, well, have you put it in there yet? And he said, no. I said, well, let's take 10 grand out. That's how much you can put in. You're maximized at 10 grand. Or if you want to do you and your wife's, and I said, I can't do that for you. You got to go on the government website. You know what he said? I'm not going to go through all that because no, I am not kidding you. He was a prospect. This one came from radio, Steve. It was a prospect, and the prospect said, well, you know what? We want to work with you. Can you get that? Nope. It has to go through the government on the government website. Well, he said, this is good here. This is, I mean, that's how it went.
Yep.
So what really, when you start peeling down the onion, it's no different if you've got a child and that child had a really bad day in that child, say it's a little girl, say she's 13, 14 years old, and all those emotions are going at that age and everything's changing and she's crying. What are you going to do? Well, sweetie, what happened today? Well, when did it happen? How did it happen? Who did it happen? Who did it? Who did what? I mean, those are the questions. It's kind of the same here. You're just going to go on in and you're going to go in and just ask the questions. And then once that, so I'll say, so do you kind of see wherever you've heard that from? I'll tell you another analogy that I use a lot from a story. As I'll say, you know what? There's all different breeds of dogs. My brother-in-law's got a black lab, and they love that lab. I've got a little border terrier. It's a little lap dog. We love this. He thinks it's a yappy dog. He thinks it's hyper. But what happens is my dog has never knocked me over. True story. Running after a squirrel where I tore the ligaments in my ankle. 15-pound dogs don't do that, but 100-pound dogs do. You know what? I would never buy a lab. That isn't my cup of tea. But that doesn't mean it's not a great dog for him. There's for different dogs for different people. There's different annuities for different people. What I show, there's variable and there's fixed annuities. Fixed means fixed principal, cannot change, has a contractual guarantee. That is the ones I use. I don't use the Labradors. I use the Border Terriers, the one with the guarantees. So I mean, some kind of story like that. People like those things. They relate to those things. So I kind of got going on that, Steve, a little bit. But if we're coaching together and you're actually paying me, we go into different stories. We go into we role play back and forth. I give you white papers or articles specifically on things that I think really helps the person understand the subject. And I will tell you right now, I've I've coached in one way or other, kind of on and off my entire life with professionals in this field, and I think that's one of the reasons why I've got kind of the background of sales that I do.
Absolutely. Well, I mentioned before you joined us here some of the things you did, some of your background, and I talked about seminars and radio and Social Security claiming, but I did not talk about like practice management and your sales approaches. And so Dave does coaching on a number of things, which he would certainly be available. If somebody wants some one-on-one coaching, Dave is available for that. You can call me, you can call your sales director. If you want to, we can put you in touch with Dave, get you on his calendar. You can spend 15 minutes with him and say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Can you help me? We've had a number of our highest level producers work with Dave on coaching at one level or another, whether it was on seminars, Social Security claiming, practice management, or whatever, to their benefit. So I always recommend, and as you've mentioned to me 1,000 times, the best players, the best performers, whether they're swimming, dancing, hitting golf balls, playing football, they
You're
all
right.
have coaches, and some of them even take it down to the personal coach level, and so there's going to be benefit to that. And I think the better that you are at something, the more you realize that there's always ways that you can improve. So if that's something that is of interest to you, don't hesitate to give us a call here at the office at 800-255-5055. Ask for any sales director, and any information you want, whether it's Dave's number or to be put in closer touch with him, we can make that happen via email or via one-on-one call. So don't hesitate to give us a call. I appreciate y'all joining us here. You were sitting here, and I think probably the best sales time for our business, almost maybe since I've been in the business, which has been since 1984. I don't know that there's ever been a better time right now, with the rates increasing the way they are and the market volatility the way that it is right now. I don't know there's been a better time to be in the business that we're in. So if we can help
I
you in
agree.
any way, yeah, I mean, Dave, I mean, you're seeing more responses to your sales and marketing than you ever
Oh
have,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's for good
Well,
reason.
you got. I mean, a fixed index now, and that's the product I show. But UILs be the same scenario,
Hmm.
because I'm sure caps have gone up there too, haven't they,
Of
Steve?
course, they sure have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah, yeah. Because they go hand in hand. But you know what? What you have right now is you have extremely high caps, and I'm because I use caps and not participation, but it's extremely high caps. But you also have really crummy stock market conditions. Really crummy, I mean, interest rates are knocking bond prices down. So you kind of have really kind of best of the both worlds. And we all know this. And Steve, you've been around for a long time also. I love when someone says, oh, I think this is going to go on for like ever. Nope.
Nope.
Nope. Caps will come down, won't they?
They
I mean,
sure will.
it's just the markets will calm down, and then people
Hmm.
aren't going to be as. But make hay when the sun's shining. I tell you right now, and now is the time. I'd say I think 2023. And I know 2022 for you guys was like a banner year, but I think it's
Hmm.
going to be a banner year next year. I do. I think it's going to be. I think in my 41 years, I don't. I think next year, this I think from here on out to 2023 is going to be incredible as far as production is concerned.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I've had people talk about, well, my client doesn't want to lock in a rate now because they think they're going to continue to go up. Number one, these rates are really good right now, and number two, I don't think we can be anywhere near sure that rates are going to continue to go up. We're getting right now, a lot of our carriers are coming to us with rate decreases. At the same time, we got other carriers coming to us with rate increases. So there's a timing here.
Steve, I'll never forget this. Excuse me, this is back in 1981, right when I started, and I was talking to a banker in this was like in '83 that I was talking to him after rates already started going back down. But you could get a CD. Now you could get a long term, but you could get a CD for 16%. Was like, and that was like on a 5-year CD, and then you could get a 1 year for like 10%, 3-year for 12. And I said, what was the most sold CD at that time? He said 90% of the people took out the 1 year because they knew rates were going to go higher. Same kind of scenario. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
It is a good time probably to lock in a little bit longer rate term, but we do have some good short-term rates. We were just talking about this morning. I've got the best 3-year rate guarantee I have right now, Dave, is like 5.2%
Stupid,
guaranteed
just
for 3 years.
stupid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
that's
is.
great. I mean,
Yep.
compete that to a 3-year CD. Compete that with a 3-year Treasury bond. I mean, you can't compete against it.
Nope.
I mean, the
Nope.
only thing that could be higher would be an IBON, but you know what? Those you're very limited on what you can put in. It's a hassle to get them, you know.
Yep.
So, yeah, yeah.
Well, whatever we do to help, let us know. Dave always says, "Don't procrastinate," and I think that's it's almost anything that we do. The more we avoid not doing anything because we're unsure. It's good to take action. Action is almost always going to be uh, the best way to go. So if we can help you in any way, give us a call. If you're setting up your year for 2023 to have a really good year, let us know. We'll see what we can do to help you. If you're trying to finish off 2022 strong, we can help you with that as well. And consider coaching. Coaching is something that has helped many of our top level producers. Dave's coaching. So take advantage of it. We're at the office here at 800-255-5055. Give us a call. Let us know how we can help. Thank you for joining us on an afternoon. We certainly appreciate it. We're going to have another great finish to this week. If we don't talk to you before, have a great weekend. Anything you want to add, Dave?
No, hey, thank you very much for taking the time, and have a great weekend.
Okay. Talk to you later, everybody.
Bye now.